For 3 centuries, you've been told governments control money. But what if I showed you proof that a hidden network of elite societies actually engineered the entire financial system you live under today, and they're more powerful now than ever before? Picture this. Every dollar in your wallet, every stock market crash, every war that shaped the modern world. All connected, all deliberate. All orchestrated by groups most people have never even heard of. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a small circle of interconnected elites built the monetary architecture that governs 7 billion people. You'll see their fingerprints on everything from the Federal Reserve to the price of oil. And you'll realize why this knowledge changes how you see every economic headline. This is the story they never wanted you to piece together. Let's go back to 1694. The Bank of England is born, and with it, a revolutionary concept. Private financiers lending money to governments at interest. This wasn't just banking. This was genius-level social engineering. Within decades, European banking families understood something kings did not. Whoever controls the flow of credit controls the direction of civilization. Fund the right people, you shape policy. Fund both sides of a conflict. You guarantee profit, regardless of the outcome. These weren't mob bosses. These were sophisticated families operating in elite social clubs and exclusive financial circles. They spoke the language of kings. They financed industrial revolutions. They turned warfare into a business model. And here's the crucial part. They realized early that visible political power draws resistance, but invisible financial power goes unchallenged. A king can be overthrown. A banker funding the king, he remains, regardless of who sits on the throne. By the early 1800s, these networks spanned Europe. The Rothschild family alone had branches in 5 major capitals. Nathan Rothschild famously said, "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply." That quote tells you everything about how power actually works. But here's where this story explodes into something far bigger. Because what happened next didn't just influence finance. It created the operating system the entire modern world runs on. The system that determines if you can afford a home, if your savings hold value, if your country goes to war. And it was designed in complete secrecy by people who understood that real power does not campaign for votes. Real power builds the game board everyone else plays on. Fast forward to America in the late 1800s. The United States is becoming an economic superpower, but it kept rejecting central banking. The founders had warned against it. So how do you create a central bank in a country philosophically opposed to central banking? You do it in secret. November 1910, 7 men board a private train car. They use first names only. Their destination, Jekyll Island, Georgia, a private resort owned by the wealthiest Americans. These 7 men represented 1/4 of the world's wealth. Senator Nelson Aldrich, representatives from J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, and the Rothschild banking network. For 9 days, they drafted the blueprint for the Federal Reserve System. The institution that controls American money, the currency that would become the world's reserve, was designed in secret by private bankers at an exclusive island resort. 3 years later, December 23, 1913, while most of Congress was home for Christmas, the Federal Reserve Act passed. President Wilson himself later wrote, "I'm a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country." This wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was a documented plan. Understanding this changes everything. Just 1 year later, World War I erupts. Who finances a global conflict? Central banks. And for the lenders, war is incredibly profitable, loaning money to both sides of the conflict. After the war, the Roaring Twenties begin, fueled by a massive expansion of credit. But this party has a brutal hangover. In 1929, the stock market crashes and the world plunges into the Great Depression. But here's the question that rarely gets asked. Who actually benefited from the crash? During the Depression, with millions out of work, assets were sold for pennies on the dollar. Land, businesses, entire industries. And the same financial elites who fueled the boom were there to buy it all up for cheap. It was the single largest transfer of wealth in American history, all flowing upward to the very people who were positioned to survive and even profit from the collapse. Then came World War II. Once again, financed by central banks, and once again, unimaginably destructive. As the war ended, the victorious powers gathered at a hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to redesign the entire global financial system. The Bretton Woods Conference in 1944 wasn't just a government meeting. It was engineered by these same elite financial networks to create something completely unprecedented, a global monetary order, where every major currency in the world would be pegged to the US dollar. Suddenly, America was the undisputed center of global finance. If any nation wanted to trade, they needed dollars. The entire planet's economy was now dependent on a single currency, controlled by a single central bank, the Federal Reserve, which was itself heavily influenced by this private network of financial elites. So the 1950s roll in. Did these powerful groups just disappear? No, they evolved. They became respectable. They traded their secret handshakes for think tank letterhead and nonprofit status. They went public, but remained private. Take the Council on Foreign Relations. Its membership roster is a who's who of the American establishment. U.S. presidents, CIA directors, secretaries of state, and Federal Reserve chairmen. Their meetings are, of course, closed to the public, or the Bilderberg Group, which first met in 1954. Every year, about 150 of the world's most powerful people, prime ministers, royalty, heads of NATO, banking executives, tech CEOs, meet behind closed doors. No media is allowed. No minutes are ever released. What they discuss is a total secret. Then there's the Trilateral Commission, founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller. Its stated purpose was to foster closer cooperation between North America, Western Europe, and Japan, essentially to coordinate global economic policy among the world's most powerful regions. Now, these aren't conspiracy theories. These are real documented organizations with publicly available member lists. Their power doesn't come from being completely secret. It comes from being completely exclusive. Stop and think about what this really means for you. Right now, the interest rate on your mortgage, the price of your groceries, the value of your retirement savings, all of it is deeply influenced by the architecture of a global financial system designed by private groups meeting in closed rooms. You didn't vote on these systems. You were never consulted. But you live inside them. You're playing a game where the rules were written by people you will never meet, in rooms you will never enter. And the most incredible part? Most people don't even realize a game is being played at all. Then came 2008. The system, built on reckless bets and bad debt, collapsed. And what happened? Did the people who caused the crisis face consequences? No. Governments used taxpayer money to bail out the very banks that were responsible. The executives kept their multi-million-dollar bonuses. The institutions didn't just survive, they grew even larger. Too big to fail became official policy, which is another way of saying that certain private institutions are now more powerful than the governments elected to regulate them. In the aftermath of 2008, central banks printed trillions of dollars out of thin air. This didn't go to Main Street. It flowed into financial markets. Asset prices, stocks, real estate, soared to record highs. The wealthy got dramatically richer, while regular people who live on wages, not investments, fell further and further behind. From 2008 to 2020, the combined wealth of the world's billionaires more than doubled. And then came 2020. The pandemic hit, and the world shut down. In response, central banks printed more money in just 2 years than they had in the entire previous century. Small businesses were decimated. But the billionaire class, their wealth exploded like never before. The system wasn't broken. For them, it was working perfectly. This isn't an accident. This is by design. So, do secret societies control the world? Here's the answer. They don't control it like a dictatorship. They control it through systems, networks, and architecture. See, you don't need to dictate every single individual choice. You just have to shape the environment where those choices happen. Think about it. Raise interest rates, and you slow the entire economy. Control the world's currency reserve system, and you influence global trade for everyone. The people in these elite networks, the ones you see at Davos or the Bilderberg meetings, they genuinely believe they're the wise managers of global stability. They see themselves as the adults in the room, making the hard decisions. But you have to ask, what is their definition of stability? For them, stability means preserving the very system that keeps them on top, that keeps their mansions on the hill, while others struggle in the neighborhood below. It's a system designed for self-preservation. Take a hard look at every major financial institution. Who sits on their boards? You'll find an astonishing number of former government officials, finance ministers, and heads of state. Now, who regulates these same institutions? Often, it's former bank executives. It's a revolving door, constantly spinning between public office and private finance, blurring the lines until you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. This isn't a modern phenomenon. Here's the critical piece of information you need to understand. For the last 300 years, a relatively small interconnected network of financial elites has systematically engineered the economic architecture of our entire civilization. They've done it methodically, step by step. First, through private banks funding governments, making nations indebted to them. Then, through the creation of central banks, institutions that look public and serve the people, but operate with the privacy and interests of a private corporation. They've done it through exclusive invitation-only organizations, coordinating economic policy across borders, far away from public scrutiny. And historically, they've used crisis and war as opportunities to expand and centralize their financial control, arguing that in times of chaos, we need stronger, more centralized authority. And they're still doing it today, just with new tools. They're doing it through digital systems, through the push for central bank digital currencies, and through the accelerating merger of state and corporate power. Imagine programmable money, where every dollar you own can be restricted, given an expiration date, or controlled based on how, when and where you use it. Your spending could be turned on or off like a switch. This is the next frontier of control. So, can you vote the system out? Not really. It exists on a level beyond elections. Can you regulate it? The regulators are often part of the same revolving door. The only real question, the one that truly matters, is this. Now that you know how the game is played, what do you do with that knowledge? Understanding the architecture of power is the first, most crucial step. It's the step toward navigating it, protecting yourself and your family within it, or, for the truly ambitious, building something new outside of it. The financial matrix is real. It was designed. It serves very specific interests. And every major economic decision you see reported on the news is just another move inside a grand, complex game that most people don't even know they're playing. Welcome to the real world of global finance. Thank you for watching. If this opened your eyes, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world.